From current leader of the Tour de France to former champion of Luxembourg, no jerseys tell you more about the athletes wearing them than the jerseys worn by pro cyclists. Hi guys, I'm Andy with Visual Minutia Sports, and today I'm going to give you an intro overview to the world of pro cycling jerseys. Now let's start by addressing the elephant in the room, jersey sponsorships. While it's a controversial topic in most sports, cycling has relied on sponsors to essentially stay afloat for a long time. Back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, when cycling was a little more popular, you'd see major companies like T-Mobile or the US Postal Service sponsoring teams, but these days, the only real recognizable title sponsor is Red Bull. That is, with one kind of sad and depressing exception. Out of the 18 current World Tour teams, 3 are sponsored by the tourism boards of Middle Eastern countries. These being Kazakhstan with Team Astana, Bahrain with Team Bahrain Victorious, and the United Arab Emirates with Team UAE. But let's step past that slightly disappointing detail. At the base level, you have something called a trade kit, which is a jersey worn by athletes who are not current national, European, or world champions and aren't currently leading a division in their current race they're in. These will feature the title sponsor across the chest and the secondary sponsors down the ribs and down the back. One small step up from that is the national champions jersey, who will get a special design across the chest, sleeves, and collar, and can range from sleek and subtle like the German jersey to much America. One jersey I do have to show some special love for, and my favorite national champions jersey of all time, is a jersey worn by former Canadian national champion Mike Woods. That thing's beautiful. One step up from this is a European champion, which gets a set of blue rainbow bands across the chest, the sleeves, and the collar. And finally, the top jersey that gets to be worn across the entire season is a jersey worn by the current world champion, who gets a set of rainbow bands across the chest, sleeves, and collar. And while most national champions jerseys can be a little bit more eccentric or wild, the world champions jerseys are typically treated with a little more reverence, typically only featuring the rainbow bands across the chest, only the title sponsor, and maybe 1 or 2 secondary sponsors on a typically white jersey and white bib shorts. The jersey that can usurp these is if a rider is leading a classification in the current race they're in. For most races, there'll be 4 categories: the best young rider, typically under age 26, the king of the mountains, the best sprinter / points classification, and the overall lead, typically called the GC or general classification. In the Tour de France, the best young rider wears a white jersey, the king of the mountains gets a red polka dot jersey, the best sprinter gets a green jersey, and the overall leader gets the famous yellow jersey. Now, these jerseys are not the same for every single race. For example, in the Giro d'Italia in Italy, the leader gets a pink jersey, and in the Volta a España, the Tour of Spain at the end of the summer, the leader gets a red jersey. Now, there are a couple more fun oddities I would like to walk over with you guys. The first is that every other rider in the peloton has to wear their numbers, basically a set of numbers on the back of the jersey in the upright position, with the exception of the rider who's given the unlucky number 13. Now, while it's not in the official rule book, race officials will allow them to wear one number 13 upright and the other number 13 turned upside down to undo the unluckiness of the number 13. A second detail is that in a race like, say, the Giro d'Italia, where the leader wears a pink jersey, any teams that have pink jerseys, like EF Education Easy Post, will be forced to change their jerseys for that race so that they don't clash with the overall leader's jersey. One last detail, and arguably my favorite detail in all of the sports uniforms, is that if you are a former national, European, or world champion, while you don't get to wear the design on your chest anymore, you do get to wear the bands, if you're the world champion, the rainbow bands on your collar and your sleeves, not just for the rest of your career, but the rest of your life. Now, while most people have the image of former NBA champion with his Bill Russell with his 11 championship rings in his hands as being the coolest visual they've ever seen of a champion, my favorite visual is of a cyclist who was a former world champion that can still show up to a group ride in their 70s with a plain jersey with a subtle detail on the collar and the sleeves that lets the kiddies know that back in the day, he was him.